So let's knock out the analysis and conclusion sections in our homeostasis feedback mechanisms lab report. So if you hop on your Google Drive, should be located down through here somewhere. I probably use my Google Drive a lot more than y'all do, but yours should be in your recents. You can always search for it. If you named it the way that we named it in class, there we are. All right, so if I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video. So let's make ourselves a heading here for analysis. We've been underlining these little headings. We want everything to be formatted the same. After I hit enter, I'm going to deselect that underline option. So analysis, written in paragraph form using complete sentences. So this is your lab report checklist that you have a copy of. Experimental design is clearly summarized, but the procedures are not rewritten. Necessary background information is provided to explain the purpose of the experiment. Well, that necessary background information is your research that you completed. So if you didn't do your research, then you're kind of up the creek. You're going to have to go back and do that now. So experimental design is clearly summarized, but procedures are not rewritten. So let's just summarize what we did. And I'm going to go back and look at my hypothesis to determine how exercise affects heart rate or temperature homeostasis. So if you exercise, then heart rate or temp will increase. So this experiment tested the effects of, I'm going to take Google's hint here, and you put what your exercise was, and then you put what you tested. So the effect of exercise on heart rate, exercise on temperature. And here is where you will insert, well, I guess we need to do a better summary. This experiment tested the effects of exercise on heart rate, a subject, and then just kind of talk through what you did. A subject ran laps in or on a high school basketball court. Heart rate is measured using an Apple Watch to determine how exercise affected it. Okay, so once again, experimental design is clearly summarized, but the procedures were not rewritten. I just told what we did. Subject ran laps on a high school basketball court. Heart rate was measured using an Apple Watch to determine how exercise affected it. Notice I'm past tense. I'm also third person. No I, we, me, you, they. Necessary background information is provided to explain the purpose of the experiment. So here is where you are going to insert your background research that you performed. So over here in our packet, that was right here on page 15. It says record your findings with references below. So I never came and checked that. Once again, don't be batting from behind. Got to stay on top of this stuff. So put your background research here relating what you found back to heart rate increasing. So that demand for oxygen or whatever it was that you found. All right, continuing on, independent variable, dependent variable, constants, control group, and experimental group are clearly stated. So in this experiment, the independent variable was, so let's go back and look at our hypothesis. If independent variable, then dependent. So If independent, the type of exercise. So you put your type of exercise. Now the dependent is what you measured. It's what that independent affected. So that was either heart rate or temp, or temperature, depending on which one you tested. All right, constants. What did you keep the same? So you should have kept your test subject the same throughout the experiment. Your timing method should have been kept the same. So we're collecting every 2 minutes. Method for measuring heart rate or temperature, whatever it was that you used. And then anything else that you can think that applied to you that you kept the same, because constants are kept the same. So the control group, what you are comparing your experiment to, was the resting heart rate or resting temperature, because that is what gave us that baseline for comparison. And the experimental group, that was testing the exercise. So the experimental group was the testing of exercise. All right, data, including graphs, is referred to and explained. Well, all we have to do is say graph 1, and let's talk about what it shows. So graph 1 in my graph shows heart rate increasing over time from, and I'm starting out around 50 beats per minute, to, looks like I go up to about 115, but I can go up here and look and see, yeah, it was 115. You just explain what it was that your graph did, what it said. Additional analysis conclusions, if any, are answered thoroughly and completely in complete sentences. So let's go look at our analysis questions here. So this is going to be on page 19. What does your data show? We said that. Specifically cite evidence from it in your answer. We did that. Think back to the research you did prior to the investigation. How do your findings relate to what you found in your research? Make connections between what you already knew prior and what you saw in your results. So this supports the research that said, and then say what your research said if it supports it. So if it supports that heart rate will increase, then say that. If it supports that heart rate would increase because of a demand for oxygen, or needing higher blood flow, say that. In what ways could you have improved your experimental design? List 3 specific weaknesses or errors and 3 specific solutions. So experimental design could have been improved by, okay, and you put in here ways that your experiment didn't go exactly how you thought. How could you have done a better job? So just say that. Give me 3 things. Maybe a better timing method, maybe a better collection method. Maybe you should have done a different exercise. Maybe your test subject was not fit for the exercise. So put that information in here. Okay, last section, and our conclusion should be short and sweet, to the point. Does the data cause you to support or reject your hypothesis? So, did heart rate increase? Did temperature increase? Did it decrease? Look back at your hypothesis and see what you predicted. So we'll just say the hypothesis, and we kind of repeat it here, that if exercise is performed, then heart rate will increase, is accepted. Explain, how do we know? Well, the data collected in the experiment shows heart rate increasing by, and I'm going to look see what mine increased. We went from 50 to 115, so that's 65 beats per minute throughout the duration of the exercise. What did you learn about homeostasis and feedback mechanisms from this investigation? So that part's kind of on you. If you learned that we balance out the demand for oxygen by increasing blood flow or increasing breathing rate, or if you learn that, hey, whenever I start sweating, my body temperature cools to release my core temperature, you put that. How would what you learn be helpful in the real world, aka life outside of science class? So that part there's tons of applications. How to cool off if you get too hot, if you do temperature. How to make sure that you do not become hypoxic or have too low of oxygen levels when you're exercising. Ton of applications here. You tell me a way that this could be applied in the real world. So that'll do it for our lab report. I'm going to open up a Google Doc. Not a Google Doc. I'm going to open up a submission box in Google Classroom for you to submit this. Once again, this will be a 100-point grade. Right here's a breakdown of exactly how I'm going to grade it. So utilize this. Make sure that you have used all of this.